Hogwarts, rising as Harry's twin with power. Episode 31. Darren nodded perfunctorily, not expecting Miss Becky to advise him. Although every sentence is not good, it is indeed for his own good. Even if he wasn't afraid at all. Seeing that Darren understood, Betsy was relieved. And arrogantly and dismissively said, "It's hard to talk to you, annoying little cub. Well, stop thinking I'll be friends with you, the Greengrass family friendship won't be so easy to get." Becky's tone was thick with unhappiness. Darren scratched his hair, a little dazed. He has no delusions. He never said he wanted to be friends with her from the beginning to the end, and he had refused her friend's invitation before. This lady is so proud. This matter should be advised. But. Okay, I'm not going to be delusional about getting the Greengrass family friendship. Darren nodded vigorously. He's not a stalker. The lady could be as relieved as possible. Betsy opened her mouth, intent on saying something, but finally turned irritably and walked forward. This little cub is just so stupid. The words she said were to make the little cub apologize to her, and the little cub actually listened. Also promised again. Really? Stupid dead. Miss Greengrass, can I go to a bathroom before leaving Street Mungo? Seeing that Betsy was ready to leave, Darren rushed to catch up and asked. The tone was even more distant, and Becky was very uncomfortable listening to it. But you can't say anything. After all, she said first, Darren delusional not to want her friendship. But for the sake of a little cub, she couldn't do it, so she could only nod her head angrily and say in a sarcastic tone, "That's it for the little hemp cubs, and I hope to wait for you outside of St. Mungo soon." Oh. Darren nodded. Not the slightest concern for Miss Greengrass's tone. He helped this girl because of the system task, and he did not think about making friends with her at all. She loves it. Just let him do the task. Watching Betsy's back disappear into the corridor, Darren hurried to the hospital's payment gate. It reads, Support Gold Garen, Silver Seco, Copper Nat, GBP, USD Trading. Support for Gringotts transfers. Support lending, interest in detail. There sat a young lady at the window. Seeing Darren, he immediately showed an inquiring expression and asked softly, "Child, are you looking for someone?" No, I'm paying for someone. Hello, this is Miss Becky Greengrass's Gringotts key. There were 30,000 gold gallons in it, and all the gold gallons in it were filled into the accounts of the Longbottoms and his wife. Darren took the little key out of his pocket and handed it to the lady. Mr. and Mrs. Longbottom? The lady opened the roster and looked it up, nodded, then looked at the little key in her hand, threw it into the air, and then the little key disappeared. Darren was startled and thought that the lady looked at him young and had forgotten his 30,000 gold gallons. Just about to lie on the ground and touch the porcelain to touch back 100,000, I heard the lady patiently explain, "This is the Nightingale, and it will quickly deliver the key to Gringotts. Take out the golden Garen and send it back." Nightingale? Is it the animal that only those who have seen death can see? St. Mungo actually let this animal withdraw money. He had seen Gringotts transfer money before and thought it was the internet of magic. Who knows? He was thinking a little too much. The speed of the overnight ride is quite fast, and it is also possible that Street Mungo is not far from Gringotts. It didn't take long for a bag to fall from the air onto the window lady's desk. Very good, exactly 30,000 gold gallons, all rushed in? Yes, all in it. Darren nodded. If he doesn't rush in all of them, he won't get a reward. Okay, it's been charged, and the current Longbottom couple's account balance is 28,001 gallons. They had been in arrears for a long time, and if they hadn't paid it again, even if Dumbledore came, he would have to take them with him. How much gold gallons do the Lombards usually use a month? How long will this remaining Garen last? Darren asked hesitantly. Well, I'll see, they'll use about 500 gallons a month. Recently, Mrs. Longbottom's offer to use the latest treatment plan has increased the cost of treatment by 200 gallons, and the remaining gallons can be used for about 3 more years. By the way, kid, you're supposed to be donating, right? Want to tell Mrs. Longbottom? No, thank you for your help, I'm just an ordinary little cub, don't you want to spread my face? Darren smiled and waved his hand as he left the window. He looked back for a moment at the ward where Mr. and Mrs. Longbottoms were located, sincerely hoping that the system would release such a task again in 3 years. Ding, congratulations to the host for completing the mission perfectly, obtaining Voldemort's bloodline, and gaining the Transfiguration talent +2. Voldemort's bloodline, a cloudy Slytherin bloodline that fuses to gain the Master Serpent language, and gain Voldemort's complex gaze, automatically fused after acquisition. What? Darren almost shouted. Is this system crazy? Harry had a piece of Voldemort's soul and had to be calculated by Dumbledore to walk around King's Cross. He, the one who inexplicably obtained Voldemort's bloodline, was afraid that he would be directly solved by Old Dang and an Avada. System, otherwise you take this reward back? Ding, the system asks the host not to make unreasonable trouble. Darren. How can this be called unreasonable trouble? This is called emergency avoidance. It's just that no matter how many reasons he has, the system has not responded and rejected him with cold violence. Darren sighed and accepted another reward from the system. Transfiguration talent +2. Previously, his transfiguration talent was 4, but now he has reached 6. This is the level of an ordinary student, right? At the beginning of the school, he exchanged the Holy Father value for some talent value, and added the transfiguration to 10. As for why not add more? Of course, it is because he wants to maintain the image of a little genius who sits on an equal footing with everyone, ordinary and ordinary. Too good to be jealous of him. Just if he is excellent, everyone will be particularly jealous of his treatment, and then he will have a lot more opportunities to show the light of the Father. One meal is full, he can still tell the difference. Episode 32. After sorting out his mood, Darren walked out of St. Mungo. As soon as I went out, I saw Betsy standing upright in front of St. Mungo's. The dark black hair is blown by the wind, and from Darren's point of view, it is like seeing some famous scene of idol drama. However, the idol drama heroine was not in a good mood at all. She stood in front of the crowded St. Mungo's doorway, her brow furrowed tightly. From time to time, he dodged one or two wizards who might have strange bloodlines, with a look of disgust on their faces. Finally, come out, don't come out again, I may have to go to the boys' bathroom to catch you. After dodging a guy who was spewing blood, Betsy finally saw Darren and said with relief. If Darren didn't come out again, she would have fled the place already. Sorry to keep you waiting. Darren said sheepishly. He took the initiative to walk up to Becky and pulled the corner of her clothes. Betsy watched his hand snort, raised her wand, and disappeared in an instant. Diagon Alley is still so lively. People come and go all around. After Darren was put down by Betsy, Patsy greeted her. Whispering and muttering, Darren's little master ran too fast, and Paggy came out of the bookstore and didn't find Darren's little master. In the end, he had to go to Dumbledore, and Mr. Dumbledore said that Darren's little master was all right, and asked Paggy to wait here. I'm sorry, Paggy, I was so angry before, that's why. I'm sorry, he could imagine Paige's hurry. Originally, the house elves were fully committed to serving their masters. After their owners disappear, some of them will punish themselves with guilt. But Darren couldn't do anything. If he let Paggy know that he had received a death curse, he was afraid that he would make a lot of trouble today. Darren's little master doesn't have to apologize to Paige, who knows everything the little master does. The little master thinks that life is equal, and the little master thinks that Paggy and the little master are the same. Paggy was so touched. Just now Paggy had been crying and crying for a long time. No one does as much for a house elf as a little master. Paggy spoke proudly and sadly in an old voice. Darren tried to comfort him when he said that life is equal and that it is primarily about people. Other races he forgot to think. However, he felt that this was a bit annoying, and it did not conform to his Holy Father's design, so he resisted and did not open his mouth. By the way, little Master Darren, Mr. Dumbledore asked you to go back to his office. After crying for a while, Paggy remembered the incident. Darren was shocked. Thinking of the blood of Voldemort that he had only obtained today, his heart had begun to be afraid. No way? Is old Dang so well informed? He just got it. Impossible, absolutely impossible. It should be something else. Did Professor Dumbledore say anything? Darren asked tentatively. Although he knew that even if Dumbledore found something, he would not tell Paige, but there was still some hope. What if Dumbledore's brain got water? Knowing that Mr. Dumbledore had asked little Master Darren to come to his office, Paggy was worried that Mr. Dumbledore would hurt little Master Darren, so she secretly listened for a while. Ah, this? So fierce? Speaking of house elves eavesdropping, did Dumbledore really not know? Oh, my God. Wouldn't that be another trap that Dumbledore had laid, testing his honesty? Darren felt his head start to hurt. There was such an unpredictable white wizard staring at him, and he didn't know if it was good or bad. Say well, that's pretty good. If he was in mortal danger, Dumbledore would surely come to his rescue. And it can also brush the white wizard's Holy Father value, which is more fulfilling. But the disadvantage was also obvious. He had to constantly speculate about the white wizard's thoughts. But it wasn't difficult, as long as he showed the white wizard his integrity, the kind of quality that was good enough to deal with. And none of the things he is doing now are unseemly. Except for Voldemort's bloodline. However, this thing should not be able to detect casually. No big deal. At this thought, Darren was relieved again. Looking at Paige seriously, she said, Paige, don't you eavesdrop on other people's conversations in the future. That is impolite, not good, violates the privacy of others, and betrays the trust of others, you know? This is not all about showing the father's manhood. There were many talents in the wizarding world, and he did not believe in the famous wizards, and he could not detect the eavesdropping of the house elves. This time it was Dumbledore. Dumbledore didn't care, plus just tested his qualities, so he didn't say anything. The next time you meet a bad wizard and find Paggy eavesdropping, you may be able to solve it directly. Darren wasn't going to let his house elves die for that reason. Well, Darren's little master is always the best. Paggy nodded obediently. Just look at Darren's gaze and admire it even more. Darren's little master is bright, kind and lovely, and believes that if he returns to the old house, he will also let the ancestors of the Potter family like it. Maybe in the future, Darren's little master can still inherit the glory of the Potter family. Think of a big contrarian word. It was reluctant to be Harry's little master's house elf, and it only wanted to serve Darren's little master all the time, and also to serve Darren's little master's children. It's just that Darren's little master is not the eldest son of the Potter family and probably won't be able to inherit the Potter family. This is what it heard today when it eavesdropped on Mr. Dumbledore's conversation. Mr. Dumbledore assured one more man that the Potter family would only let Harry be the little master of the inheritance. Does the little master of Darren have to be thrown out? It didn't tell Darren little master about this, because it knew that even if it told little master Darren, he wouldn't fight for those things. Darren's little master was so kind that he certainly wouldn't want to do that kind of thing. Episode 33, Darren really didn't know that Paggy was thinking so much. I didn't know that it was thinking about inheriting the Potter family. If you know it, you must reject the idea. He has a system, what good things can't get. Do you have to rob a fallen Potter family? As for Paige wanting to follow him, it was even simpler, he wanted it from Harry, or he could just buy it. Harry knew Harry's temper well. People are not bad. Even if he and Harry were not friends, and Paige herself wanted to go, Harry would not refuse. Not to mention that he is also the younger brother of Harry Potter. Is it difficult to have a house elf? However, Darren did not know what Paige was thinking, and he had been taken to the door of Dumbledore's office by Paggy. "Oh, you're coming," said Mr. Dumbledore, "and if you come, let you in." The gargoyle at the door gave way. "A staircase emerges behind you." Darren climbed up briskly. "My child, I'm still telling Severus when I'll see you, and you'll come," Dumbledore said with a smile. "A glass of lemon juice? Black tea? Or butterbeer? Well, you're a kid and can't drink beer, let's have lemon juice." Darren shyly scratched his hair. "To you, child, do you want to try this cockroach heap?" Dumbledore pointed to the pile of moving cockroaches on the table. Darren looked over curiously and took one in his hand and shoved it into his mouth. "Bursting pulp will move. Well, it feels a little weird." He sighed with some disgust and picked up the cup containing the lemon juice. Ding, detect that lemon juice contains a small amount of vomit, will not cause harm to the body, but will enter a state of unconsciousness within the next minute of taking and answer the question accurately. 100 Holy Father values can be used after taking to keep the brain awake. This. Well, before he came in, he felt that Dumbledore's paranoia had come up. The old man found him tossing around in Diagon Alley for the past 2 days, and he was absolutely suspicious of his intentions. So before he came in, he knew it was a feast. "I just didn't expect that it wasn't a regent of the gods, but a true agent." Looking into Dumbledore's empty eyes behind him, he knew that Snape had done it. I don't know how Dumbledore persuaded the potions master to drug his beloved Lily child. But he was not afraid at all, and looked up and drank the lemon juice. Little master has nothing else, and today the Holy Father has made a lot of mistakes. Feel free to come. It's still a little painful. 100 father points can be exchanged for a talent point, and it is wasted here. Can't these 2 men take his mind for him? How good is this free? Darren was helpless to complain. After drinking the lemon juice, Darren felt that his consciousness gradually could not control his body. The brain also gradually began to go blank. System, using 100 father values, to keep my brain awake. Ding, used successfully. The next second, the head cleared. Although he could not control his body yet, at least he could control what he wanted to say. Snape and Dumbledore were talking, their voices as if they were coming from afar. "Dumbledore, I don't understand why you have to keep an eye on this child. He's just a little fool with a lot of thoughts, which you still need to doubt." Darren nodded wildly in his brain. "That is, he behaved so perfectly, what is there to doubt? Severus, forgive an old man's paranoia, I just want to make sure Harry gets rid of Voldemort without the slightest surprise." The boy was Harry's younger brother and arguably the closest person to him. "If he grew up with me so that I could ensure the direction of his upbringing, then I would never worry about it. But he was lost since he was a child, and I had no way of knowing what he thought. Even if I saw his memory, it was just a memory. Maybe he had other ideas, because of that miserable childhood." Dumbledore's voice was a little painful. "It should not be loaded." The White Wizard was just sad while inserting a knife into someone. "Because he has to make sure more people are safe." Snape, evidently aware of him, let out a mocking cold hum from his nose. It's just your excuse, and I hope it's the first and last time. This child, he has suffered a lot, he should not be by you. Smell a rat. Yes, Severus, you're right, but you also need to know that Harry is also her child. You can't just think about Darren and forget Harry, although little Darren is really cute, Dumbledore quipped. Snape's face floated with irony. He walked over to Darren, checked his condition with his wand, and said coldly, "Well, there's nothing you can ask, it's only half an hour." Enough, enough. Dumbledore sat up straight, looking at the boy with empty eyes in front of him, his eyes flashing with apology. "This is necessary," he told himself. "What's your name?" "Darren Porter." Darren controlled himself to say the name. "I'm glad I have a system. This means of the wizarding world." If he hadn't kept his brain clear, he might have even burst out his pre-crossing name. Dumbledore asked a few more small questions to make sure Darren answered clearly before getting into the subject. "You said that life is equal in Diagon Alley, do you have any ideas?" "Yes?" Darren was stunned. He also thought that it was he who was always doing things, so he let old Dang find him, but he didn't expect it to be because of this. What about the equality of life? Isn't this the love that old Dang preached? He's politically correct. Snape was obviously stunned, and then he said angrily, "Dumbledore, when did life equality become an excuse for you to be suspicious?" Episode 34, Severus. Dumbledore interrupted Snape, leaned back in his chair with a weary look, and sighed softly. "I know you'll find it incredible, but I think you should understand. Any theory could cause a war, and the wizarding world could not stand the third turmoil. Life equality? If Darren consciously guides this idea, then goblins, house elves, other beings oppressed by wizards, would surround him. Perhaps the riots he set off would be worse than Voldemort and Grindelwald. So, Darren, why are you preaching equality of life?" Dumbledore sat up straight, waiting for Darren's answer. Darren had a bit of a brain ache. Why did he preach? Of course, the system let him preach. The system detected where it could be played, and dared him to say anything. What can he do? Well, he admits that what was more brilliant later was his own idea. After all, the father was worth too much. His eyes were captivated. But can you say? No. So he could only say in a trance-like tone, because life is inherently equal, Paige is a house elf, but he's still that good. I heard from the outside that Slytherin was a bad wizard, but I found Professor Snape to be a good man. Miss Greengrass of Slytherin, though not in the same philosophy as mine, enthusiastically took me to St. Mungo. Mr. Malfoy was a little annoying, but he was only a child's temper. So life is equal, and life is not made unequal because of who he is, Darren said bluntly. And take the example of Slytherins he knew and Pesci. Ding, father plus 100. Ding, father plus 20. Two fathers' values rang out. Darren knew that it was Dumbledore and Snape alone who had contributed once. So, when he met with Snape and Dumbledore before, Dumbledore probably didn't contribute much of the Holy Father value, but it was all given to him by Snape, right? Depend, this old. Dumbledore naturally didn't know what Darren was thinking, he just breathed a sigh of relief, and there was some cheerfulness in his tone. It seems that our little Mr. Darren will always be so kind and lovely. Ahem. Snape spewed a word out of his nose. Well, next question, Darren, will you compete with Harry for the position of patriarch of the Potter family? What? What did he rob this for? A fallen patriarch position, he is really not rare. Don't grab. He said without hesitation. Snape slammed his fist into Dumbledore's table and looked at Dumbledore angrily. You're not going to tell me you're going to push them into the fight for the family property right now, are you? No, 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 Severus, the Potters have nothing valuable except some money estate. There was only one thing left, and it was a treasure that moved me too, but I needed it to make sure it came to Harry. Dumbledore sighed softly. Darren's conservative guess is the cloak of invisibility. Looking at Snape's still exasperated face, Dumbledore hesitated for a moment, but continued to explain. The fact that Darren Jr. was in Diagon Alley made many people know that Harry Potter had an extra brother. There were a lot of them who were fans of Harry, and there were people who grew up listening to Harry's stories. When they knew that Harry had a younger brother, their first reaction was that Darren was going to rob Harry of his possessions. We all know that Darren is a kind child, but they don't know. They would only think that Darren was in the limelight, thus overshadowing Harry's reputation and inheriting the Potter family. Because of a secret that cannot be told yet, I must ensure that Harry becomes the heir to the Potter family in order to give that thing to him. So I promised them that the Potters would only let Harry inherit, even if the Potters had appeared because of Darren. Dumbledore had a slight headache. Little did he know that after the news spread that Darren was Harry's brother, most people's reactions would be this. This he really hadn't thought about before. Thinking that he was a white wizard, he would ask a child such a question with a spitting agent, and Dumbledore felt a little ashamed. A bunch of nosy idiots. Snape commented. Dumbledore sighed and did not speak. The next few minutes of silence, just when Darren thought the question would end like this, Dumbledore suddenly asked, "Darren, are you jealous of Harry?" "Dumbledore, why are you asking this question? What are you suspecting?" Snape questioned Dumbledore. "Severus, be quiet. In fact, even you are worried that Darren is jealous of Harry, aren't you?" "I'm just worried that the two cubs she desperately protected would turn against each other." "Me too, Severus." "Ah, this? It seems that this problem is indeed no problem." If he had asked Darren what he thought, he would certainly not have been jealous. He had a system, he did not consider this place home, nor did he regard these people as relatives. He has more of a game-playing mentality. Who will be upset because the protagonist in the game is so treated? But if the original owner is here, it should be very sad, right? Harry Potter is famous and has so many people who care. And he died in that orphanage. Even if the original owner did not die in that orphanage, he came here. He doesn't have a system, he can only be himself. Then he would see Dumbledore's suspicious gaze, Snape's complicated temper, the wary eyes of many. Even because he didn't have a phoenix egg, not even the only house elves who recognized him. On such a day, the original owner may grow into a big villain, right? Therefore, to answer Dumbledore's question, one cannot directly and one-sidedly say his own ideas. It's so unreal. Or to show your father's light in the mood of the original Lord. Episode 35, he sighed in his heart. In a trance-like tone, he said, "When I first learned the truth, I was a little jealous of my brother. My brother had lived with Mom and Dad for a year, and I hadn't even seen them. After coming back for so long, I didn't even have a picture of him. In the old days, in the orphanage, teachers said that children like us were all disliked by their parents. I thought for a long time, why do my parents not like me? Is it because I am not well behaved? So I learned not to argue with others, to do my own things, to help others more, and to make myself obedient. But no one found me. I wondered if it was because of the power in my body that made them think I was a monster, so they didn't come to me? So I suppressed those forces, and became the most ordinary child." Wait, and finally, Mr. Dumbledore and Professor Snape appeared. They brought the news of their parents' deaths, with suspicion and caution on their faces. Especially when I mentioned that I wanted to see my brother, they all rejected me, should be afraid that I would hurt my brother, right? I was a little sad, a little jealous, but after learning about my brother's deeds, I couldn't get jealous. Their brother's lightning-shaped scar was described by them as the Medal of Glory, but it was also evidence that he almost died. I shouldn't be jealous of him for the treatment he's enjoying now. He saved the wizarding world, he's the hero of all, or is he my brother? And Mom and Dad didn't come to me, not because they didn't love me, but because they couldn't come. As for the gentleman and the professor being wary of me, that was also the way it should be, who made my appearance so strange, so as if it would hurt my brother. So I was thinking, if I went to Slytherin, wouldn't it be better to stay away from my brother? And I could also keep an eye on all the kids in Slytherin who had personality problems and prevent them from bullying my brother. Ding, father plus 100. Ding, father plus 50. 2 more tips. Darren excitedly accepted the father's value. This time it was very good. Obviously, the other 2 people in this office were very moved. But that's the result of his efforts. After blowing so much mental process, his mouth was dry. And these words obviously dispelled many of Dumbledore's doubts. Jealousy always sounds bad, but the generosity and tolerance after jealousy can make people feel great, right, Severus? Dumbledore asked with a sigh. Snape snorted and asked a little hesitantly, "You wouldn't really let this kid go to Slytherin, would you? It's all dark wizards. And Harry Potter's brother went into Slytherin, which would probably make the Dark Lord laugh for a whole year, why not?" Dumbledore waved his wand and filled Darren's cup with lemon juice, then pushed it in front of Dalen and laughed softly. "Severus, you should give Darren the freedom to choose. Slytherin isn't all bad wizards, like you, are you? That's different." Snape's eyes gradually hollowed out. Dumbledore shook his head, his eyes that seemed to see through everything, smiling. "The same, Severus, no one can guarantee that he will not go astray. But as long as he returns to justice, for whatever reason, he's no longer a pure bad guy, is he? Oh, half an hour has come, and it's time for cute little Darren to wake up, Severus, and I don't think you want little Darren to know what he's been through today. Unless you want to be treated as Professor Snape all the time, with suspicion and caution, and unscrupulous for the sake of Harry Potter," Dumbledore quipped. Snape snorted. "I don't care what his stupid and easy to trust human head says about me," Snape said sarcastically as he carefully pressed his wand against Darren's head and whispered, "Forget everything." Ding, does the host spend 100 father's values to offset everything? Depend on. Offset. It was too much, such a true agent plot, calculated that he only earned 70 holy father values. Blind him for such good acting skills. Offset success. Follow the prompts of the system. Darren had other memories in his mind. It was he who entered Dumbledore's office and asked him how his life was these days. Is there anything uncomfortable? There is still a lot of talk in the memory. Just now they talked about Montinger. Well, Professor Dumbledore, Mr. Muntangas, there should be a oolong. I thought he was gloomy, a bit like the Death Eaters they said, so I went up and helped the muggle. Darren lowered his head in embarrassment and shyly picked up the glass of lemon juice and took a sip. Dumbledore laughed. No, my child, I believe you have taught Montingus a profound lesson. Let him know that he can no longer despise anyone. He'll be all right, I promise, my boy. Darren smiled a little happier. However, as if he remembered something again, he said, Sir, I wanted to apologize to you as soon as I came in, but I don't know why I forgot it. Darren said suddenly. Dumbledore froze, and then looked away a little weakly. It's like this, because I was afraid that Mr. Dumbledore was looking for something wrong with me, and I didn't arrive in time, so let Peggy eavesdrop on your conversation. Sorry, Darren stammered. Dumbledore was a little helpless, this child was so uneven lying. But of course he couldn't expose the child, lest the child hide his shame and anger. I forgive you for your mistakes to the child, I don't care about this, no one will hear my conversation without my permission. That's fine, thank you, Mr. Dumbledore, for your understanding. Darren smiled. Sure enough. This old Dean is tempting him. Episode 36. No need to thank the child, we had a great conversation today. By the way, Professor McGonagall asked me to inform you that every new student must enter by Hogwarts train through the Black Lake. I hope that you will arrive at platform 9 3/4 of King's Cross Station on time before 11 o'clock the day after tomorrow to board the train and greet your magical career. When Dumbledore finished speaking, he waved goodbye to Darren. Darren walked out of the office obediently. It wasn't until he was lying on his cot that he rolled his eyes. He was sure that if he hadn't said he was going to Slytherin to help Harry with the true agent, old Dang would never have let him go to Slytherin. This old man said that Slytherins were also children. In fact, as long as it entered Slytherin, this old cargo became vigilant and cautious. Even he felt that the old man's consent to him to go to Slytherin today was only a kind of appeasement to Snape. After all, Dumbledore couldn't do anything about Slytherin in front of the double agent. As long as the sorting hat really sorted him into Slytherin, he was expected to be called to the office by Dumbledore often to take pictures. But why did he know that Dumbledore was suspicious and say he was going to Slytherin? One is that the protagonist is in Gryffindor, and if he goes to Gryffindor, he will definitely be blocked by Harry. Second, most of the people he currently knows, most of whom are in Slytherin, feel quite good. Even the proud Miss Greengrass was very interesting. Not to mention that there was also a never-before-seen Cassandra, Sister Slytherinka. Third, of course, it was deliberately brushing old Dangshing's father value. It's about going to Slytherin, it's about getting your mentality. Let you wonder every day if Lao Tzu has rebelled. Then the regent felt guilty after thinking about it. Back and forth 1,000 times, angry at the suspicious old man Dang. At first, Darren thought any college would do. Now Darren was thinking about Slytherin House. This is simply a good place to do the value of the father. Darren smiled triumphantly. I remembered again that today's harvest seemed to have one that had not yet worked. He won a bloodline lottery. Sweepstakes. Ding, start the bloodline draw, the lottery ends. Congratulations to the host for getting Snape's bloodline. On the night Lily was injured, Snape may have lost some blood and anxiety. Start distributing rewards, and distribute them successfully. Snape's bloodline, the modeled prince's bloodline, fused to gain potions talent +10 and potions innovation +20, earned Snape's uncertain gaze. This system is not right. What does it mean that Snape lost some bloodline? This together, Voldemort lost his bloodline, and Snape also lost it? The system is talking about, what happened to his Lily mother? Darren's expression changed to the appearance of the subway grandfather looking at his mobile phone. This is not scientific. He had probably suspected what Voldemort had done to Lily, but he had absolutely no doubt about what Snape had done to Lily. The old maid didn't dare at all. So this system is doing things. As word went out, his James father might be about to jump out of the grave in anger. The boy obediently picked up the cup and drank the cup of medicinal juice. Unbeknownst to him, the old man in front of him, along with a greasy, gloomy old bat, had given him a potion. He trusted them in ignorance. And they have repeatedly betrayed his trust. Snape thought with a calm face. At first, I was a little jealous of Harry. The boy said so. There was some sadness in the voice. He thought in a trance that he had seen Lily. The same tone was the same when Lily saw him the last time. She said she had some regrets. But she never regretted it. Snape wanted to cry and apologize to her. He wanted to tell her that he never said that word again. Nor did he believe any more of what Voldemort said. He also went to be a double agent for Dumbledore. But he said nothing in the end. He couldn't disturb Lily's life any longer. As long as he did everything right, Dumbledore said he would hide them. Who knew that Dumbledore ended up saying that she was dead because of the betrayal of Jamie's damn friend? Sure enough, he shouldn't have believed the stupid man. He killed Lily. After Lily's death, he can only begin to protect Lily's children. Although he didn't think the man would come back. For 10 years, he was like a ghost of Hogwarts, wandering in this spiritual colony, waiting for the last of the redemption. Until he met Darren. Darren Porter. As soon as he saw this child, he was in a trance that he had seen Lily. Especially when he was brave and fearless in front of him, he almost really thought that Lily had returned. To do this, he almost killed the Muggle. When he came back to God afterwards, he couldn't understand why he would do such a stupid thing. But I have to say that this little cub named Darren is really similar to Lily. When he looked at it, he felt soft, and even looking into his green eyes, he couldn't even say anything sarcastic. He had always felt that he had made an exception for the boy. Who knew that today, Dumbledore let him know that he was still so despicable. Severus, I need a few drops of vomit. What are you going to do with it? Give that Monteingers a taste? Let him know that the brother of the undead boy is not so good at bullying, Snape sneered. I saw Dumbledore shake his head and say, no, it's for Darren. Dumbledore. What do you really want to do? It's not what I want to do, it's this kid. I can't see through it. He really seems like a good boy on the surface, he loves life, helps others. He was good to the house elves, sympathetic to everyone, and even the wand he held represented the fearless spirit and the sacrifice of Cyprus. But I suddenly found that everything he did was beneficial. I don't know if it was his luck or if he did it on purpose, I need to know more about him. Snape thought back to these words and closed his eyes and threw himself into his chair. He compromised. He had to admit that he was still so dark. If Lily were still alive, I'm afraid I would hate him even more, right? P.S. Roughly explain why Snape did this. And set it up that Snape secretly saw Lily once after learning the prophecy. Episode 37, The Last Day of August. Darren finally bought all his books and all kinds of study aids in Diagon Alley. Peggy wanted to buy him another pet, but Darren refused. He also had a hairless turkey to keep, and no longer allowed a pet to eat white rice in the family. On this day, he didn't brush up on any good things, but only added 2 magic talents, 2 plant affinity talents, and 1 divination talent. People panel. Name, Darren Porter. Talent points, 7. Potions talent, 18. Innovation ability, 20. Dark magic talents, 9. Transfiguration talents, 6. Divination talents, 3. Spell talent, 7. Animal affinity talents, 3. Plant affinity talents, 6. Items, Rui Wand, Phoenix Carol. Abilities, Divine Brain Closure, Montingus' Stealing Ability, Hegemonic Memory Ability, Controllable Silence, Master Snake Language. Title, A Wand That Cannot Be Lost. Bloodline, Voldemort's Bloodline, Snape's Bloodline. Character, Cassandra Favorability Level 50. Father Value, 1310. Darren looked at his character attributes with satisfaction, which were simply genius attributes. I believe that Hermione is no better than him. Finally, it was September 1st. Darren was delivered to King's Cross Station by Patsy at 10:30. He needs to take the Hogwarts train to get into the school. This is the tradition of every new student. And Dumbledore should have hoped he would meet Harry, and then be persuaded by Harry to talk to Gryffindor. The old guy didn't want to watch Darren enter Slytherin. He even suspected that Dumbledore had planted eyeliner here. Darren skimmed his lips. But immediately a well-behaved smile appeared. Seems to be very excited to wait for someone to come over. Ding, aware that there is a scene played by the Holy Father system around the host, now release the task. Walk over to the Weasley house and pick up their youngest daughter, Ginny, after she falls. Pulling a candy out of her pocket and giving it to her, she shyly left there when she was about to say thank you. Ding, get the title after the mission is completed. Little Laurie's nemesis, after wearing, the likability of little girls under the age of 16 increases by 30. Tut. Check out this reward. Not serious. Pick up. Not to accomplish the task, Darren is purely for the sake of doing good. He looked left and right, and at a glance, he saw the red-haired figure of the family. He touched his head. Not to mention, he and those people looked like family. The only thing that was a little different was that there was always a strand of hair on the top of his head. He wanted to comb them flat every day, but they were always stubbornly cocked. He also tried to cut it with scissors, and it grew up the next day. Darren always felt that this made him look a little silly. Professor McGonagall was also approached for this. Unfortunately, Professor McGonagall looked at him and smiled for half a day, told him that it was a trait that James had left him, and refused his request to permanently remove the strands of hair. Darren sighed and pressed his hair hard. Mentally thought it was flattened. This pretended to be waiting for someone, and slowly wandered around here. In fact, without a trace, he approached the Weasleys. "Ah, Mom, I fell." Darren only had time to turn around when he heard the sound of crying under his feet. Looking down, a little red-haired girl was lying at his feet. The raised palm of the hand scratched the skin. "Ginny." A middle-aged woman's voice came. Darren confirmed that this was Ginny Weasley. "Admit it." He immediately carefully lifted Ginny up and patted the dust on her body for her. Suction. Ginny sucked in her nose. Still a little crying. She fell too badly. Darren sighed, took a candy out of his pocket and handed it to her, and whispered, "When I used to fall down in a welfare home, they all said it would be nice to eat a candy." "How are you?" Ginny asked with tears in her eyes. "No one gave me sugar." Darren shook his head in frustration, and as Ginny took the candy and tried to thank him, she blushed a little embarrassed and strode away. Ding, congratulations to the host for receiving the title, Little Laurie's Nemesis. With Darren's departure, a little boy with red hair was gathered around Ginny. "Ginny, where did you get the candy?" Ron asked enviously. His mother rarely bought him sugar. "I had a little brother with the same hair as Ginny." Ginny shoved the sugar into her mouth. "It's fragrant and sweet. That little brother is so nice." Darren didn't run far. He just hid in a place where Ginny didn't see and waited for Harry. According to the original plot, Harry should appear here. Ding, aware that there is a scene played by the Holy Father system around the host, now release the task. While Harry Potter was panicking and looking for a platform, he walked over to him and politely asked him, "Are you going to Hogwarts?" After Harry answered yes, he led Harry into the 9 3/4 station, without revealing his identity during the period. Ding, after the mission is successful, the sound of heaven, does the host receive the task? Pick up. Harry still couldn't believe he was a wizard. He was about to attend a school of magic and magic called Hogwarts. And there he can also meet his twin brother, Darren Porter. I heard that the twins look exactly the same. I don't know if Darren is the same. And why didn't Darren stay at his aunt's house? But these should be known by seeing Dallin. And to meet Darren, you must first arrive at Hogwarts. 10:30. Harry was taken to King's Cross Station by Uncle Vernon. It's bustling with people. There are also many stop signs, but there is not a platform of 9 3/4 at all. The 9th and 10th platforms are available. But there was nothing in between, not built. Harry pushed to salute and tried to ask the police there, but the police had no idea where he was talking about Hogwarts. Still suspicious that he was entertaining them, he walked away a little angry. He searched everywhere like a headless fly, and Hedwig was a little annoyed. Seeing that it was almost 11 o'clock, Harry's lips dried out, and his heart became more and more frightened. Couldn't he catch the train and go back to Uncle Vernon's house? Just then he heard a voice ask doubtfully, "Are you a student at Hogwarts?" "I see you've been around here for a long time." Episode 38. "Hello, I'm a student at Hogwarts, are you too?" Harry stammered. The boy in front of him looked cute and noble, very similar to the little young master on the TV he had seen before. He also noticed that the boy had green eyes like him. Hagrid said his eyes were like Mom's. But the boy's hair was red, like the family not far away. I don't know if it was a family. The only interesting thing was a strand of hair on the top of his head, which clearly showed signs of oppression, but the strands of hair were still strong and growing there. Harry felt that the boy should have the same troubles as he did, but his hair was unkempt, not as neatly groomed as the boy in front of him. "You must be laughing at my hair, right?" "I didn't." Harry immediately vetoed it, and pointed to his hair. "I'm not laughing at you, I'm just like you. You look at my hair, they can't fit at all. My uncle asks me to shave my hair every week." Harry said helplessly. Darren grinned. Looking at Harry's hair that was curled up everywhere, I felt much more comfortable. If he had inherited James's messy hair, he would have shaved himself shaved. Cough. Now is not the time to say this. "Thank you for not laughing at me, I'll take you to the platform first, it's supposed to be about to leave." Darren smiled a little embarrassed, as if ashamed of the immaturity he had just felt. But he immediately got his spirits up. "Hurry up, I'll help you push, you just follow me, or you'll be really late," Darren said eagerly. Pushing Harry's salute card hard, he rushed towards the platform. "How do you get in there?" Harry hurried to keep up. "Hit it hard, hit it and get in," Darren said with a smile. Then he pushed the trolley headlong into the platform of 9 3/4. Harry followed him and rushed in. Ding, congratulations to the host for getting the sound of nature. The sound of nature, the voice becomes better to speak, and the effect of persuading others is more effective. "Hurry up, get in the car." "Mom, what about my suitcase?" "The front carriages are full." "Boy, I'll miss you." It's bustling here. Voices everywhere talking. A crimson steam train was parked on the edge of the platform and read, "Hogwarts Express, 11 o'clock. It's amazing." Darren sighed. Although the technology was not very developed at this time, it was indeed very amazing that such an old train was still used in this era. It's amazing, haven't you been here? Harry thought that Darren couldn't help but sigh when he said this platform magically. But I was curious again. Didn't this boy ever come in here? He thought the boy had come in, so he knew. Well, I listened to Peggy, and I wanted to come in with my brother and come and find out the magic of magic, but... He shook his head helplessly and sighed with some regret. Apparently sorry for coming here for the first time and with a strange boy. Harry was a little sorry. In fact, the first time he came here, he also wanted to be with his brother. It's just that Darren is said to be living in Hogwarts now. Maybe next year they will be able to work together. Well, you hurry up and get on the train, I'm going out, bye-bye. Where else are you going? It's about to depart. Harry was surprised to find that the boy had run out again. Before leaving, he did not forget to answer him, I am going to wait for my brother, and my brother may not know how to come in. Oh, well, it looks like I'm the only one looking for a place. Harry sighed, dragged the salute, and finally found a car with no one at the back of the car. While putting away his luggage, two twin red-haired boys helped him. It's just that the two boys were stunned when they learned that his name was Harry Potter. Harry shook his head, a little glad he hadn't told the boy his name. He didn't like people staring at him all the time, and he didn't like people hearing his name and thinking he had saved the wizarding world. In fact, he was a kid and he didn't know how to do it. Harry sighed and sat down by the window. If he saw the boy come in with his brother, he might invite them to sit down. Hello, is there anyone here? It was while he was waiting. Another red-haired boy pushed the door in, pointed across from him and asked, is there anybody here? Harry shook his head. He had seen the boy, and he was the younger brother of the two boys who had helped him. It's like calling Ron. The family was still discussing his name, and the two boys pointed to his carriage, frightening him into missing his head. Clearly knowing his name, Ron pretended not to care by skimming past the scar on Harry's forehead and turning his gaze out the window. Harry noticed a little ash on his nose. And although he and the boy just now had fiery red hair, he was obviously not as good-looking as the boy. Even less did he look cute, clean, or even expensive. Harry sighed, not knowing how he could think of the boy again. He could only look back at Ron. He had just said hello to his two brothers. I heard their names were Weasley and George. These are twins, and they really seem to be. I don't know if Darren will look exactly like him. That would be miserable. Harry thought helplessly. He wasn't handsome at all, and he was very thin, and Dudley and his friends called him a mouse. Hopefully, Darren won't look like this. He shook his head. Eyes staring out the window again, how come the boy hadn't come in yet? The train is about to go. Harry wiped the window glass a little anxiously, fearing that the boy had missed the train. Just when he couldn't help but look for the boy, he suddenly saw a girl pulling the boy in. Sister Becky, wait, I'm going to wait for my brother. The boy struggled twice, a little eagerly. But the girl interrupted him, you're afraid you're crazy, the hemp wizard hasn't come in at this point, are you planning to return to your muggle world? Episode 39, Muggle. Harry knew what it meant. But what is hemp seed? Hemp seeds are muggle-born wizards. Just as Harry was wondering, Ron next to him awkwardly explained to him. Harry was stunned. He heard the girl continue, good fellow, your family is still coming to Hogwarts in a team. Well, if he doesn't catch the train, then when you get to Hogwarts, you can tell the professor, and the professor will help you. If you don't catch up with yourself and neither of you can go, think who's going to help you? Harry thought the girl was right. Just as I wanted to agree, I heard Ron say indignantly, Betsy, I know her, I've heard my brother say that she's Slytherin College, the president of this year's student union for girls, and she has a very bad reputation. They all called her Hogwarts Overlord Flower, and she was an extreme pureblood, believing that hemp wizards and half-blood wizards should be banished from Hogwarts. Just don't know why she's with this hemp wizard? Could it be some conspiracy? Slytherin? Harry had heard the name for the second time. While he was in Diagon Alley, he met a boy with light blonde hair who said in a particularly obnoxious tone that he was going to Slytherin. Slytherin is an academy at Hogwarts, where mysterious people are said to have graduated, and where bad wizards are called. Voldemort, I mean the mysterious man you were talking about also graduated from that college? You actually said that name, the name of the mysterious man, you are so powerful. Why can't I? Harry talked about sex and talked slowly with Ron. On the other side, Darren, who had been carried by Becky to the train, was sitting helplessly in the middle of a group of Slytherins. Betsy, why did you bring this hemp seed? A boy with permed blonde hair glared at Darren unhappily. They were all pure-blood nobles, and it felt very bad to sit here with a hemp wizard. Enough, Frank, who I'm bringing here, that's my business, if you don't want to, you can get out. Betsy said coldly. Her cherrywood wand swirled around in her hand, and everyone, including Frank, closed their mouths. or shall I go down first? Darren sighed and said thoughtfully. He also wanted to go out and find Harry. In order to make a good impression on Harry, he had just gone out to act. What are you going out for? Malfoy is waiting outside. Do you want to be cleaned up by him? Betsy glanced at him and thought the guy was a bit stupid. But he had offended the little young master of the Malfoy family, right? Before, he said that Malfoy could not be justified in Diagon Alley, so that Malfoy lost people, and later heard that he was also taught a lesson by Malfoy the Great. In such a situation, he still dares to go out and run around? Malfoy took his 2 followers, each of whom could top 2 of these guys. Why did he clean me up? Darren tilted his head and asked, doubtfully. It didn't seem to understand at all why Malfoy had picked him up. He didn't think he had done anything excessive? You've offended Malfoy. Do you think the last thing to do was over because of your departure? Betsy looked at him in disbelief. This little cub is also too simple, right? Also, it is not simple, and it is impossible to stupidly block her death curse. He couldn't have said to tell this guy not to delusional about the Greengrass family friendship, and he really hadn't thought about her. Scold. Darren winked at Becky, confusedly. Obviously think it's really over. Oh my god. How did you spend your previous life? Betsy shook her head wordlessly. She felt like she had never seen such a stupid guy before. It's just. Well, for his sake of saving himself once. You stay here, and if you have anything you want, you can just tell these people to get it. Betsy nodded at the others in the carriage. These are her licking dogs, or followers. Usually, she can't look at these guys at all, but now she thinks she can let these people bring this little cub. That's stupid. There are many silly ideas that should not be there. Regardless of the topic of equality of life, let's say that he casually gives people the matter of blocking death curses, and we should teach him a good lesson. Betsy raised her chin at her followers. The men smiled at Darren in a hurry. Hello, my name is Ace Frank, the prefect of the 4th grade, and this is my younger brother, Bisa Frank, who is a freshman like you. Darren carefully jotted down what Ace Frank had said, then looked at Pizza Frank, and the boy with the pizza name quickly grinned and nodded. Deeply afraid of getting Betsy's magic reward too late. This is Dumbledore French, the 3rd-year prefect, and the one behind is Ted Baker, the 5th grader. After a round of introductions, Darren discovers that there is only one freshman in the carriage, Pisa, and the rest are senior prefects. Of course, the corner place also shrunk by a little girl. The girl has light blonde hair and a mole under her eyes. I was sleeping with my eyes closed. Pale cheeks slept red. Darren noticed that everyone else around him was walking around the girl. Cassin de la Vor, a child of the ancient Very family, advise you better not to mess with her, or. Betsy didn't say the next words. The people who can sit in this carriage are pure-blood nobles. Except for Cassandra, what she said, these people had to listen. But Cassandra couldn't. Her family is very old and has a long history. Be more proud. Not even willing to look down at people. And the most reprehensible thing about her is that she likes to provoke fights. After provoking the fight, he sat comfortably in his chair and watched the people fight to the death. If Darren had messed with the girl, Betsy thought he might not be okay. However, with her there, I believe Cassandra will also give her some face. Episode 40. Well, these are small things, all you have to do now is tell him not to give people body spells anymore. Betsy snorted coldly. The last time that death cursed Darren didn't die, it was his life. But how can people return to their lives? She had to make this guy understand that resisting spells wasn't the only way to block it with her body. Ha ha ha, wouldn't you? You actually used your body to block the spell? Pisa Frank couldn't help but laugh. Although he did not dare to laugh, he was really amused by Darren's move. Their home had taught them that only their own lives were the most important. If you are killing someone because of the curse, then it is better to die outside, and never go home. Pisa has always taken this as a joke. Who would block spells for others like a fool? I didn't expect that there was really one in front of me. Ha ha ha, are you stupid? If it were in our Frank family, you might have been killed by my grandfather. With a whip. Pumping to death. Frank's voice grew quieter and quieter. The face that was still smiling and moaning just now instantly turned into a bitter melon face. Because he found that the big lady of the Greengrass family, the overlord flower of Hogwarts, was looking at him coldly. With that cherrywood wand in his hand, looked like he was going to crush him at any moment. What's wrong? Is it because he said this hemp seed? Didn't the sister let them say it? Pisa looked up for help at his brother Ace Frank. Ace skimmed his head. He lowered his head silently. Silly brother. You also don't want to think about the big lady of the Greengrass family, why stay with a hemp wizard? There must be a reason. He did not react before, stood up and questioned the young lady, and was almost thrown out by the young lady. Now the young lady said that they should teach this Mr. Hemp and not let him block the spell with his body. Apparently the hemp wizard had saved Betsy. He also used his body to block the spell for Becky, and only then did Miss Greengrass gain a hard-won friendship. His stupid brother was still laughing at the hemp wizard. You laugh at the stupidity of people blocking spells for people, and people laugh at the uselessness of not getting Miss Greengrass's friendship. Forgive Frank's stupidity, he has not asked Darren's name until now, and still has a hemp wizard's cry in his heart. Of course, he wanted to ask Darren's name now, and he wasn't embarrassed to ask. After all, the atmosphere is more solemn. Everyone wanted to laugh at Darren, but with the lesson of pizza, I really don't know what attitude to use towards Darren. Hurry up, teach him a lesson. Betsy threw her wand impatiently. What's going on? Don't these people want to listen to her? It's so hard for you to teach a man a lesson? The Frank brothers secretly cried bitterly and quietly pushed Dullagar, who was watching the bustle from the side, to the forefront. Dullagar opened his mouth. I wanted to go back, but when I saw Betsy's gaze, I laughed and stared at Darren. Just now, piece of Frank is laughing at this little cub of hemp seed. Will he be targeted by Betsy? Then he does not laugh at this little cub is not finished? Dullagar thought for a moment and took his wand out of his pocket. It looks like I need to teach you a lesson with your wand today. Sister? Dullagar looked blankly at Betsy, who had struck his wand with his cherrywood wand. Why? How else can we learn a lesson without that? He's still a freshman, what are you doing to scare him with your wand? Betsy was a little upset. No matter how stupid this little cub is, he is also her savior, and this group of guys actually took out their wands at him? She hadn't even pointed her wand at that little cub. The lesson? Duergar picked up his wand and asked hesitantly. You taught him a lesson. I didn't restrain you, huh? Dullagar was even more dazed. He looked at Darren, who was listening to him with a well-behaved look in front of him, and then looked at the student sister with an impatient expression behind him, and suddenly wanted to drop the wand in his hand. What do I want this thing for? Why don't I lean on a schoolgirl? Sister, look at me. Useless waste, stand there for half a day without doing anything, get out of the way. Oh, Darren looked at this scene and almost laughed. This student is really interesting. At first, he thought that the student hated him and warned him not to think of anything. As a result, through these two contacts, he found that this student sister was a bit cold and warm-hearted. So Slytherin is all this kind of personality? But of course it's time for him to play. So Darren laughed, and he turned his head to look at Betsy, his eyes full of gentleness. Sister Becky, I think I understand. Sister Shwe, you are here for my own good. You are because I gave you a spell before, so you will let people talk about me like this. In fact, I understand that I am also very scared after blocking that day. You can rest assured, if there is no accident, I will not do so next time. Thank you, sister, for your concern. Betsy was still the first time to see Darren smiling at her, looked stunned, proudly raised her head, and hummed. I don't care about you, you're less self-indulgent, and since you rejected my friendship. Forget it, I can give you another chance. Who made you so stupid? Come and surrender to me. She behaved proudly and looked like an unattainable fairy. Darren was ready to refuse. He was not willing to submit to anyone. It's okay to be a good friend, it's impossible to surrender. Ding, aware that there is a scene played by the Holy Father system around the host, now release the task. Quickly walked over to Betsy, blocked her right side with his body, and then called urgently, Sister, get down. Ding, get the bloodline talent after the mission is completed. Natural healing, do you receive it? Pick up. Darren walked over to Betsy without a trace, and his eyes were sharp enough to see a red dot on Betsy's body. Oh, sniper rifle. The task was acceptable, but Darren was a little surprised. This big lady of the Greengrass family also has too many disasters and more difficulties, right? Who has offended?